To begin, 2017 was, in the United States, a year of uncommon natural disasters, including Hurricane Irma right here in Naples and the surrounding area. One organization showed up within hours of every one of those life-changing events: fires, hurricanes, mudslides, and more that hit the U.S. last year. The name of it is Team Rubicon. Take a look.
A full-blown hurricane in the middle of the Gulf, bounced back out to sea, came in, hovered over Houston as a tropical storm, one of the worst floods in the history of the United States.
When you see people's lives floating in water, it gets to you.
80% of the homes have been wiped out.
It's kind of a strange feeling. You have no idea what's going to happen.
This is going to be the biggest operation we've ever attempted, and they're doing everything from supporting with logistics to operations.
In Team Rubicon, we believed that the veterans were the ideal people for disaster response.
I'm an Army veteran, so to see that there was a veteran organization helping people in the community, I wanted to be a part of it.
Most people join Team Rubicon because they are looking for that sense of purpose. It's a really good place for us to show what we've got.
I prayed this morning to send me some help.
With the help of Team Rubicon, I know that my purpose in life is to continue to serve.
I've got my sense of purpose back.
I felt like I was part of a family again.
We're trying to mobilize volunteers from across the country. We've got the best team in the world. We're committed to sticking around in the city of Houston.
There's no way you can turn a blind eye out to any of this damage.
It's heartbreaking. And they said, it's okay, everything will be all right. We're here to help you.
We are so grateful.
As long as that flag's still flying, I'm going to do what's best for this country.
This is what our America is about. Our country coming together.
I'm proud to be a part of Team Rubicon.
They see us and they see hope, and they see that there's help coming their way.
America was built on an ideal of neighbors helping neighbors, communities coming together as one.
Jake Wood is the founder and CEO of Team Rubicon. It is a 50,000-member organization of military veterans who show up at disaster sites as the first responders. And there were 175 of them who were here within 48 hours of when Irma hit. Please welcome Jake Wood.
Well, good morning, everybody. How are we doing today? It's a pleasure to be here in the state of California. I came from the state of California. It's a pleasure to be here in the state of Florida, a state where Team Rubicon provided so much assistance in the aftermath of Hurricane Irma. I'm going to talk about that a little bit here in a moment, but I want to start a little bit more with the backstory. You know, I wasn't always the chief executive officer of Team Rubicon. In fact, 11 years ago, I was actually a Marine in the United States Marine Corps. I was a young corporal in the Anbar province of Iraq. I was serving our country during the surge. I found myself in the Marine Corps because I was a freshman at the University of Wisconsin when September 11th, 2001 happened. And I went through the next 4 years of my life in college understanding that the world had changed and wanting to serve my country in some capacity. And so when my time at the University of Wisconsin ended in 2005, I walked into a Marine recruiter's office. I ended up enlisting in the United States Marine Corps. And that journey took me to Iraq in 2007 as part of the surge, where I led a squad of 12 Marines over the course of 7 months in an area that was known as the Triangle of Death during the deadliest year of the war. And I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about people. I learned a lot about leadership during that nearly year-long time in the Anbar province. And I was very fortunate because at the end of my year in Iraq, I came back and I had all my fingers and all my toes. And I was subsequently recruited into a Marine Corps Scout Sniper Platoon, a more elite unit in the Marine Corps. And after about 12 weeks at sniper school, I was fortunate enough to graduate. And I was put into a 6-man Scout Sniper team and sent to the Helmand Valley of Afghanistan, probably one of the most dangerous places on the face of the earth. And over the course of 7 months, the 6-man Scout Sniper team was tasked with hunting and tracking Taliban insurgents and drug lords in the Helmand River Valley. Now, this was a very dangerous period in my life. It was a part of my life when I learned a lot about myself. I had to be very introspective and learn a lot about what it meant to have integrity and honor in the face of such challenging and trying circumstances. But once again, I was very, very fortunate. And at the end of a 7-month tour in the Helmand Valley, I came back. And once again, I had all my fingers and all my toes, and I had to make a very, very challenging decision, probably the hardest decision that I had made up to that point in my very young life. And that was whether or not I re-enlisted in the Marine Corps and continued to serve my country and continued to go off and fight in what has become the longest wars in our nation's history, or make a choice to get out of the Marine Corps and go and try something else. Now, because of my wonderful mother, who's actually joining in the audience today, and not wanting to put her through another 4 years of war, I made the very challenging choice to get out of the Marine Corps. I didn't know what was going to come next in my life. So, like anybody that doesn't know what they want to do with their life, I figured I'd go and get an MBA. Probably a couple MBAs in here. I put my applications into schools all across the country, and as I was waiting for those applications to come back, I saw this image come across the screen. This was Haiti in 2010. And I remember sitting there transfixed, watching CNN, watching Anderson Cooper reporting live from Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and seeing the devastation, the hopelessness, the despair, the destruction that was all around him. And I couldn't help but think, as I watched these images come across the screen, that they were so similar to the experiences that I had just had in Iraq and Afghanistan. The devastation, the destruction, the lack of resources, the lack of information, the need for leadership. And so what I did is I turned the television on mute, and I called a couple of organizations and offered my services and told them that I had just gotten out of the Marine Corps, that I'd just gotten back from 2 combat tours, that I knew how to lead small teams, that I could run logistics and operational planning for them. And the response I got from the other side of the phone was, thanks but no thanks, text us $10. Now, 8 years later, running a nonprofit disaster response organization myself, I get it. But at the time, I wasn't satisfied with that. And so I worked with a couple of friends, a friend, William McNulty, my college roommate, Jeff Lang. We recruited a couple of other Marines, a special forces medic, a flamboyant doctor, and a Jesuit priest, and we went down to Haiti. It was like the start of a bad joke. We got to Port-au-Prince, Haiti about 4 days after the earthquake, and we began running medical triage clinics all throughout the most devastated parts of the city. What we learned was that everything that we had learned in the Marine Corps, everything that we had learned and prepared for in combat was applicable in these types of humanitarian situations. Small unit leadership, risk assessment and mitigation, operational planning, all of these things that we had been trained for and honed in the worst situations imaginable around the planet could help people in their greatest time of need. And so we came back from Haiti after about 3 weeks of running these medical triage clinics, and we incorporated this idea as a 501c3 nonprofit that we called Team Rubicon. And we set out with a very, very simple goal. We wanted to build the best disaster response organization in the world. We didn't actually know the magnitude of the issues we were facing when we first started off. So I'm going to talk about them a little bit right here. First of all, it's a fact that the frequency and severity of natural disasters have been increasing over the last 3 decades. In the era of fake news, this is indisputable. Disasters are happening more often, and they're becoming more severe and more costly. Now, there are a lot of factors for this. One is climate change, whether you want to believe it or not. 2, we have an increasing population density, and those populations are beginning to center more and more along hydrological features that are increasing the severity and impact of these climate events. 2, the economic damage of these events is increasing dramatically. In 2014, the economic impact of this in the United States alone was $20 billion in insured losses, and twice that amount, $40 billion, in uninsured losses. Initial estimates from the hurricanes just last year range from about $185 billion to $225 billion. And frankly, that number is going up as the fiasco in Puerto Rico gets worse and worse every day that passes. So that was problem number 1 that we quickly uncovered when we came back from Haiti. The second problem, or the second challenge, is that we've had 3 million men and women serve our nation since 9/11 overseas. We have 20 million veterans in the United States of all generations, dating back to World War II and Korea. Many of these 3 million men and women who have served over the last 2 decades are coming home and facing some challenges. Some of them are having trouble finding employment. Some of them are having trouble reintegrating back into their community. And a small portion of these individuals are facing emotional challenges such as post-traumatic stress, which are often being exacerbated by things like traumatic brain injury. Now, this is some of these 3 million men and women, but certainly not all. Now, these challenges manifest themselves in a stunning statistic, which is that 20 military veterans across these generations are taking their lives every single day in this country. 20 men and women who have served their country, worn the cloth of this nation, take their lives each day in the United States of America. That's a stain on our national integrity. And this is a very personal situation for me because my sniper partner, one of my best friends, Clay Hunt, this young Marine right here, took his life 7 years ago in Houston, Texas. And Clay didn't kill himself because of what we saw in Iraq or Afghanistan or because of what we did. Clay was combat wounded in Iraq, shot by an enemy sniper. He had been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress, and he came home, he found a job, but what he couldn't find after leaving the Marine Corps was purpose. What he couldn't find after leaving that band of brothers was a community. And what he couldn't find after taking that uniform off for the last time was a sense of identity that made him proud of who he was. Those were the things that killed Clay. A lack of purpose, a lack of community, and a lack of identity. And so as we stared at these two daunting challenges, this rising frequency and cost of disasters and these challenges that are facing the 3 million men and women who have come back from Iraq and Afghanistan, we didn't actually look at challenges, we looked at opportunities. The first was veteran transition, okay? Of the 3 million men and women that have served since 9/11, the taxpayers, you, the people in this room, have invested an extreme amount of money training these individuals in critical skills and advanced skills. You're putting $320,000 into every single man or woman that graduates from the West Point Military Academy, $6 million to train a fighter pilot, $2 million to train a Navy SEAL. Every single Marine that graduates from boot camp has $45,000 taxpayer dollars invested in him or her. And that's before they go to any one of those advanced schools. And then they take these skills and we have them go and practice these skills in the most austere environments imaginable across the globe. These aren't people that should be liabilities in our community's balance sheets. These are incredible assets, but only if we think of them as such. And after 4 or 10 or 20 years serving their nation, these men and women leave these military bases and return to our communities all throughout the United States, taking that skill, taking that experience, and taking that service leadership attitude with them back into our hometowns in every corner of every state in the U.S. Likewise, every single community in this country is vulnerable to disasters. Now, certainly if you live along the Gulf Coast, you can imagine this because of hurricane season every single year. But the reality is that we have the opportunity to take these two challenges and use them to solve the other. These men and women are searching for opportunities to continue to serve their country. And we are in sore need of a solution to increase the resilience of our communities in the face of these mounting challenges that are posed by disasters. And over the course of the last 8 years, since 2010, we've built a powerful organization to do exactly this, leveraging technology and leadership to build a framework that turns these idle assets in our communities, these military veterans, into powerful agents of change, making them the leaders in their communities to serve on the front lines when their communities need them most, on their community's worst day. And we've seen this transform lives throughout those 8 years. We've seen these men and women get reinvigorated with this sense of purpose that, frankly, I have spouses frequently come to me and say, "Thank you for giving me my husband back. I now see the man I married once again because he's got that sense of purpose once again in his life." We have the opportunity to do this. And we've been very successful over the course of those 8 years. Our membership has increased from those original 8 volunteers that crossed into Haiti to 75,000 volunteers throughout the United States today. We've been running operations over the course of those 8 years, culminating in 61 operations in fiscal year 2017 alone. And it's taken a lot of money to be able to scale to this, but we've been able to fund this entire effort through corporate, foundation, and individual donors who are looking at new models for increasing resilience in our communities. People who are interested in investing in what amounts to a 21st century volunteer fire department, leveraging a network that can tap into these idle assets in our communities. Now, this all came to a head in the fall of last year when we first saw Hurricane Harvey tearing across the Gulf Coast. Team Rubicon braced and prepared to respond along the Gulf Coast of Texas as we saw this hurricane making landfall. And respond we did. But I couldn't help but think, as we looked at this hurricane making landfall, what if the 103,000 military veterans that lived in the city of Houston, 103,000 military veterans were living in Houston, what if they had been organized and trained and equipped in advance of that storm? How might those initial days or hours had played out differently if that had been the case? Or if you, living here in Naples, as you watched Irma, and that's the eye of that storm making its way towards landfall, if you had known that the 2,601 military veterans living right here in Naples, Florida, or the 1.48 million veterans living across the entire state of Florida, had been organized, trained, and equipped by an organization like Team Rubicon? How might you have felt different about the prospects of your ability to respond to that storm? That's the future that we're looking at with what we're doing. We have the opportunity to build that type of resilience into these communities. And it played out perfectly during Houston. We deployed nearly 2,000 military veterans from across the United States into Houston, Texas after that storm. They helped 972 families, conducting about $3.85 million worth of volunteer labor that amounted to nearly $7 million of market value services to homeowners who were living on that fringe, homeowners who were the most vulnerable, those that were lacking homeowners insurance, who without this type of assistance would have faced a financial tragedy that could have put them into a financial tailspin from which they may not have escaped. Because the reality is that these increasing disasters, the costs are inequitably borne by those that are most vulnerable in our community. And we have to find a way to meet that challenge head on. And so I'd ask you this, it doesn't matter if you're in Manhattan or Milwaukee, Chicago or Cheyenne, our communities right now are divided and they are vulnerable. And we have the opportunity to organize our nation's greatest resource. And I say that with an incredible amount of confidence that that is what these military veterans are, our nation's greatest resource. We have the opportunity to organize them to become the leaders that our communities need to face these mounting challenges. And if you closed your eyes and imagined your hometown facing one of these disasters, and perhaps you did just 6 months ago here in Naples with Hurricane Irma, if you closed your eyes and imagined that storm bearing down on your home, bearing down on your family, and you're huddled throughout the night while the eye of that storm crashes into the walls of your home, and in the morning you emerge from that storm, I challenge you to think about who is it that you would want to come and see, or that you would want to come and help your family through that time. The reality is, I hope that after hearing this today, that you would choose the men and women who have served our country before that are living amongst us in our communities. And if we can find a way to provide them that opportunity to serve, not only can we increase the resilience of our communities, but we can improve their transition home, away from war, and into a lifetime of peace and prosperity in our communities here in the United States. It was a pleasure kicking off today's Imagine Solutions Conference. I want to encourage you all to stop by, visit with me afterward, but please pay attention to all the speakers you have today. There's some really incredible people that are coming up, and I'll see you throughout the rest of the day. Thank you very much.